So when you're just starting out on saxophone, getting your reed wrong, it can make the difference between making amazing progress on your saxophone and just getting frustrated and giving up altogether, because this one little piece of reed is super important. Now, I don't want you to give up. I want you to make amazing progress on your saxophone. So in the lesson today, I'm going to show you how to choose the right reed and make sure that you've got your reed set up so that you can make amazing progress on your sax. Now, if you're new here, make sure you do click subscribe, hit the bell icon so you find out about the new lessons that are coming up. Right, let's start talking about reeds. Man, look at this collection of reeds. Just about every saxophone player you meet is going to have a box of reeds like this. It's kind of like, I don't know if we should call it a graveyard or an opportunity box. Who knows? That's because reeds are something that's super important to us as sax players. And you know, over the last 7 years of running sax school, which is the thing that I run, it's a huge online community of saxophone players. I've helped over 10,000 students actually during that time, and so many people come to me with a problem about their sound. They are confused about which reed to use, or they're struggling to make a great sound on their sax, and that's often down to the reed choice. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Is the reed right for you? Which one you should start off with? When you should be looking at moving up your reed as well. So the very first thing to talk about is which reed is right for beginners. Now there's lots of different types of reeds, but to start off with, we're going to talk about cane reeds. These are the most common reeds that you're going to find. And to be honest with you, when you're just starting out, I would actually suggest that you start with cane reeds. I play on synthetic reeds, and I'll get to those in a second. But cane reeds are great because they aren't super expensive. I mean, they're not super cheap, but you know, a couple of pounds maybe per reed. And that means that you can try different reeds, because you're going to break a lot of reeds at the start, and you're also going to try lots of different reeds before you find the one that suits you. Now, reeds are made of cane, like I say, and they come up in half sizes. So they start from around about a 1.5, and they go up in half sizes to 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, and so forth. Now, when you're starting out on saxophone, a size 1.5 reed is the right one to start with, without a doubt. Everybody should start on a size 1.5 reed. Now, this is a very soft reed, and it's the softest reed that you'll ever play on. And for a lot of people, they're going to move past a size 1.5 reed pretty quickly. But a size 1.5 reed makes it easy for you to get a nice, clear sound on your saxophone. So there's lots of different brands of reeds. I mean, in my box here, I've got some D'Addario reeds. They're fantastic reeds. I've got some Marker reeds. I've got Van Doren reeds. These are some more Rico Select reeds. There's tons of different brands, and it can be confusing to know which one to try. I would suggest at the start trying a few different ones. In fact, my friends over at sax.co.uk, they do a reed selection pack. I've used this myself actually in the past, where you can get a selection of reeds from different brands in the same size. I actually think that's the top idea. If you are in England or in Europe, then you should definitely check that out. Maybe other companies in the States or in Australia do a similar thing. But I would suggest going and trying a few different reeds, or just going to your music shop and getting a size 1.5 reed, but in 2 or 3 or 4 different brands. What you'll find is that different brands of reeds will play differently, even though they might be the same size. So it's good to try different ones to get an idea of which one is best for you. Now, of course, getting the reed fitted onto the mouthpiece in the correct way is also super important. So the most important steps for this are make sure the reed's always wet. It's going to taste a bit funny, but make sure you stick it in your mouth and make sure it's nice and wet. Hold your mouthpiece with your mouthpiece and your ligature. Now, so I think that it's really important that you put your ligature on the mouthpiece first. There's a few different schools of thought on this, but I think this is absolutely the best way to do it. Why? Because you're less likely to break your reed. You're going to break some reeds at the start, but this is going to make it less likely. Okay, so mouthpiece facing you, the flat part facing you. The ligature goes over the top. Then slide the ligature forward so there's a space underneath. And then the flat side of the reed goes onto the flat side of the mouthpiece, and you slide it underneath the ligature. So you can see there where I'm sliding it underneath the ligature. I definitely think you do not want to do this. You don't want to put the reed on the mouthpiece and then put the ligature over the top, because I can guarantee you're going to break your reed. Okay? So mouthpiece, ligature on, reed goes underneath, and then you've got to just jiggle it around a little bit so that the reed is in the position where it's even on either side of the mouthpiece and just below the tip of the mouthpiece. And then when it's in the right place, we hold it with our thumb, get that ligature down so that it's below the bump in the mouthpiece, and then finger tight. It doesn't need to be super tight, just finger tight. So you've been playing your size 1.5 reed for a little while. How do you know when it's time to move up to a harder reed? Great question. You'll find that as you start playing saxophone, your mouth muscles are going to really develop. They're going to get stronger. And when they get stronger, you're going to find that the sound might be a bit thin for you. It might sound a bit weak. You might also struggle to get the higher notes up, like up around octave G up to octave C. If you're having those problems, then it's definitely time to consider moving up to a slightly harder reed. Now, I'm not talking about jumping from a 1.5 to a size 4. I think you should just jump from a 1.5 to a size 2. So just half a strength extra, and that, believe it, actually is going to make a big difference to the way the reed feels and the way your embouchure feels. And you'll probably find that your mouth muscles get quite tired when you start playing with that slightly harder reed. And just like when you started off with your size 1.5 reed, when you move up to a size 2, make sure you go and try some different brands and experiment to find what sounds best for you. And don't forget that a size 2 in one brand might be completely different to a size 2 in another brand. And one other thing, just to make it a little bit more complicated with reeds, is that even within one box of reeds, in one box of reeds where there might be 5 size 2 or size 1.5 reeds, you'll find that each of those will play differently as well. So there's lots of variation in reeds. You need to be super patient with it. Hey, just before we go on, what type of reeds do you play? Let me know the brand of reed and the size of reed that you're playing on in a comment below. I'd love to know what reeds you love. Okay, so we've talked about what size to start with, and we've talked about when to move up to a slightly harder reed. But how can you tell if your reed is too hard or too soft when you're playing? Because this is the common sort of problem that people have with reeds. They're either too soft or they're too hard. So if they're too soft, you're going to get those problems we talked about before, where your higher notes are going to sound a bit thin, or you might even struggle to get your high notes out. You might even struggle to get your palm key notes out, up around high D, E, and F on your saxophone altogether. But it's definitely going to sound a bit thin, and that's when your reed is too soft. If your reed is way too hard, then you're going to get a really breathy, airy sound to your saxophone. It might even be squeaking quite a lot, and chances are your embouchure is going to get really sore. And you might find that your bottom lip is getting sore when you're playing, or it's hurting, or your embouchure muscles around here are just getting super tired and you're getting lots of air leaking out the side of your mouth. All of those are indications that your reed is way too hard. So again, if your reed's too hard, just drop it down half a level. And if your reed's too soft, try going up half a level. Now, as just a general guideline, most players will start at a 1.5, but they'll end up playing on a size 2 or maybe a 2.5 size reed. Very few players will play harder than that. When I was younger and I was playing lots of classical music or lots of loud gigging, playing in pop bands or in big bands, I would be playing in maybe a size 3, sometimes even a 3.5 reed. But these days, I'm playing on a size 2.5 reed. Because the thing is, if you have a really hard reed, it takes a massive amount of control with your embouchure to maintain your tone and your sound on the saxophone. So for 99% of players, I think a 2.5 reed, a 2 to a 2.5 is the optimum strength to get a great sound. And then really it's just down to having your embouchure strength and your fitness under control so that you can get the best sound that you want. You're better off to have a good medium strength reed and a super well-developed embouchure than have a super hard reed and be always struggling to keep up with it. Now, one last thing I want to cover is the difference between cane reeds and synthetic reeds. Now there's some fantastic synthetic reeds on the market these days, and actually I'm a Leger artist, so I play Leger reeds on all of my saxophones, have done for the last couple of years, and actually I'm a huge fan of them. I have to say, and I've told Leger this as well, for a long time, for years and years, I didn't like any synthetic reeds. I mean, there's things like Rico Plasticover, Barry make them, there's a bunch of different synthetic reeds, and I never got on with any of them. I always found that they were too bright. I didn't find that they lasted long enough for me. But Leger started making these signature cut reeds, and actually I love these. I play them they're the only reeds I play. I play them all the time. And they sound fantastic to me. Now there's a few issues with synthetic reeds over cane reeds. First of all, they're a lot more expensive. So in England, whereas one of these might be £2, this might be £20. But it'll last more than 10 times the length of one of these. So I think they're actually more economical, even though they're more expensive. The other issue with them, of course, is that because they're more expensive, most people are reluctant to try 5 different sizes before they get the one that they like. So it can be tricky to find the size reed that's going to suit you. Leger are actually pretty good. I don't know about other brands, but they'll actually let you swap a reed out. So if you get a size 2.5 and then you realize that maybe it's too hard for you, you can take it and exchange it. But another cool thing about at least Leger synthetic reeds is that they come in quarter sizes, and I found this has been quite handy for me on the soprano, where I'm using a 2 3/4 reed, so 2.75, so halfway between a 2.5 and a 3. That seems to suit me. So they last longer, they are more expensive, but you can get a size that's right. And the other great thing about synthetic reeds, the final thing, and the thing which I love the most, is that every one of these synthetic reeds plays exactly the same, and they don't change over the lifetime of the reed. So whereas with a cane reed, they will change the longer that you play them. So it might feel great at the start, and then in 2 weeks' time, it's going to feel completely different because it changes. Also, there's a huge variety within a box of reeds as to how they all play. So everyone will play slightly different. So for my money, I prefer the consistency of synthetic reeds, and they suit me. But if you're just a brand new beginner, then I wouldn't rush into trying one of these because you don't yet know what size reeds you're going to be playing on. So start off with cane reeds so you can explore lots of different sizes and brands until you find something that suits you, and you're also developing your embouchure. And then when you're ready, go grab some synthetic reeds and try and check them out. Now, of course, whatever size reed you're using, the most important thing is that you're developing your embouchure and your saxophone skills. You're developing great saxophone skills. So I've got a fantastic bundle of free lessons for you to help you get on track with all of that. That's my Ultimate Saxophone Toolkit. Now, I love this collection of lessons. I put it together because these are the favorite lessons that I've made and the ones that thousands of other players have been using, and I've been seeing really great results with them. So there's things in this collection of lessons if you're a brand new beginner to get you up and running quick and start playing great tunes. There's also an excellent warm-up lesson in there and a fantastic introduction to improvising lesson in there. So go check this out. It's free. Grab it, download it, and make sure you leave me a comment and let me know which of these toolkit lessons that you like. So there you go, tons of information there on reeds. I hope that's helped you. Let me know in a comment what brand you're using and if this has been helpful to you as well, because there's always so much to learn about reeds, and all of us saxophone players are constantly on the search for the perfect reed. So I'm really curious to hear how you get on with reeds. Also, don't forget to click subscribe and hit that bell button as well so that you know about the new lessons. And go and check out the other stuff on the channel, because there's a bunch of stuff on here for you to help you improve your skills, learn how to improvise, help you choose some gear, tons of stuff to help you with your saxophone playing. Right, happy reed choosing, practice hard. I'll catch you next time.